collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
On Sunday this last weekend, KISA, that's the NGO that stands for Equality, Support and Anti-Racism, helped organise a mobilisation of migrant workers for equal access to social insurance benefits. Now, that might not seem important to some people, but it's, I think, since the mid-1990s that third country nationals here have paid in their social insurance contributions, but when they return to their home countries, because there's no agreement between Cyprus and those countries, they actually get no benefits whatsoever. Cyprus, in the meantime, has pocketed some considerable amount of money. So Doros Polykarpou from KISA joins us now to explain the ins and the outs, and indeed, I'm sure, the support that you had from migrant workers when this happened last Sunday. First of all, Doros, put us in the picture about what they put in and what they don't get out. It's so unfair.
Well, it's interesting, but a very rough estimation. Third country nationals pay since 1991. In average, we say the first 4 years we had fewer people, but then we reached a situation where we had up to 90,000 registered third country nationals before we entered the European Union. So in average, we estimate that the people paid 5 million euros per month on the social insurance scheme, and they were not able to take access, so to have any access to the benefits of this scheme, and mainly pension for them, which is the most important aspect. Of course, it's very important for them because some of these people, they don't have any other schemes in their countries, so it's the only resource for them to secure their pension, and it's a very unfair and discriminatory praxis. It's not a coincidence that the people, they don't have access to this. Several times the governments, Filipino government, the Sri Lankan government approached the Cypriot government and asked to sign agreements. Cyprus was very active to sign agreements with Canada, with Australia, and some other countries that we have Cypriots that they can transfer their contributions. But of course, we did as if we didn't understand when it came to bilateral agreements with countries that third country national workers can benefit of in Cyprus.
So does this mean, for example, that if a Cypriot goes to work in the Philippines and they pay social insurance there, they can't access it when they come back here?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same unless of course, the Filipino government will pay a lump sum amount. Otherwise, without such a bilateral agreement, they cannot transfer this amount either in both directions. Of course, in this, we know that the reality is that for some of these countries, the migrant workers, they support their whole families. And it's not just a moral aspect. It's not just the importance for these people. It's not just their rights. We have a clear obligation according to the community law. The legal framework we have right now, it's problematic from the legal point of view for two main reasons. First of all, the criteria that we apply, they are indirect discrimination and prohibited by the law, because the criteria are put in a way so that migrants, and in combination with our migration system, so the people cannot reach the foreseen points in order to have access to these benefits. So if you have a migration system that you tell the people you can only work as a domestic worker and you earn per month 320 euro, which means that your contributions are something like 100 euro per month. So it's impossible to expect the people, if you don't allow them to pay more in this social insurance scheme and you don't allow them to work longer than 6 years, it means you have to adapt your criteria for this scheme in a way so that these people, they have access. Otherwise, if your criteria, they are based on the assumption that the people work 20 years with a salary of the minimum income of 900 euro, of course, these people will never have access to it. So,
all right, but just a minute, I'm not clear on this. Even if we don't change the law that says you can only come here and work for a maximum of 6 years as a domestic servant, you are still paying your pot into the social insurance. Why, when you go back to your country, if we signed an agreement, would that not be accessible to you upon retirement? It wouldn't be much, but at least it wouldn't just be disappearing into a hole which apparently is spent by the Cyprus government.
Yes, but you can imagine, it's 5 million. It's a huge amount of money. We speak now about the last 30 years. It's an enormous amount of money that these people pay, and they don't have any access at all to these benefits.
Do they have access while they're here to healthcare, for example? I mean, people who pay in their social insurance, it's not just the pension. I know you've been talking about pensions, but what other benefits do Cypriots or EU nationals get when they're paying social insurance in Cyprus?
Well, they have sick leave from the social insurance scheme. They have pensions. They have unemployment benefits. None of this applies for third country nationals because, as we know, health insurance, domestic workers have to pay their private health insurance. So it means that they don't use the social insurance scheme to cover their health care. And we have, of course, now there is a change, and slowly, with improvement of the new general health system, domestic workers and third country nationals will have equal access to the health care with Cypriots, but until now, for the last 30 years, these people, they didn't have.
Okay, so that's something we could say is a positive.
It's a positive
that
development
is coming
in this direction.
through.
Yes, of course.
All these people
But still, what you said is important, because we have three options right now. One option is we sign bilateral agreements with this country so that the people, at any moment they return back, they can transfer their contributions to their countries.
That seems so simple, Doros. Why don't we just do it? What would Cyprus lose by doing it?
The money, the contributions of the people. We all know that there is a big hole in this and big gap in the contribution scheme, in the social insurance scheme. And of course, if we deduct this amount of money every year, this will put more burden and more increase the obligation of the Cypriot government.
Well, I'm sorry, to
subsidize.
This is theft.
Of course,
pure and simple. Okay,
of course, it's
theft by the authorities in Cyprus of workers' hard-earned social insurance benefits. I can't think of another way to put it. Now, what does the government say about what it's not doing?
Think how immoral it is from the point of view of those that they complain on a daily basis that these are the people that they take advantage from our social insurance, our social network.
You're talking about
the welfare system.
All right, hang on a minute. You're talking about the sort of things you see on social media saying these third country nationals are getting free healthcare, free this, free that. They're actually getting nothing, and we are stealing from them their contributions, which when they go home mean they have nothing towards a pension and no other, if you like, official papers that say they have been paying in.
Of course, they don't have anything, and have in mind that they don't have also the welfare system that we have here, that will enable the people without pension to have access at least as a minimum income. If they go back in their country and they don't have pension, they don't have anything. They are left completely in their old age without any financial support. This is a completely different dimension if we see this from this point of view. So in my opinion, our obligation is either to sign these bilateral agreements or to modify the system so that the people will have access according to the height of their contributions to apply at any moment and get access to pension directly from Cyprus. They can leave their contributions here if they want, and then they can apply. But then they have to change the criteria so that they can be adapted to the contributions of the domestic workers. Right now, they cannot do it. And the third possibility, obligation, actually legal obligation, none of these two systems are not put in place. The government has the obligation to pay the contribution in cash to the people when they leave the country. This is a legal complication according to ILO conventions. This is a legal obligation that we have for several years now, and we do as if we don't understand with the single permit directive. and it's time the government to act on it and make the system more justice for these people.
So this March, they were talking about changes required either to give these people the lump sum of their contributions when they leave to return to their own countries, or the possibility, seems to me like possibly not the better option because of the time it will take and the paperwork, and we know the delays in the system here, that when they reach retirement age in their country, just like European workers get this much from France if they worked in France, that much from the UK if they worked in the UK, and this much from Cyprus if they worked in Cyprus. It's all worked out. That's a bit more complicated, but if we put them on the same footing, they would then, when they reach retirement age in their country, be able to draw however meagre a pension from what they contributed in Cyprus.
Exactly. This is the obligation, and this is a practical solution, and I think we need urgently to work in this direction. And that was the reason of this demonstration. We wanted to raise awareness about this issue. We wanted to put pressure on the authorities to negotiate. We spoke with diplomatic bodies and representations of these countries. They are willing, and they already approached the Cypriot government. The Sri Lankan consulate as well as the Filipino consulate asked several times the Cypriot government to start a discussion and negotiation about this.
And what was the answer?
Until now, there was always a promise that we are going to see this later. For several years now, it seems that as the result of the tragic events of the serial killings we had recently, I think one of the agreement that the government made with the countries and the diplomatic bodies representation of these countries is that they will open this discussion and proceed with agreements in this direction.
Opening a discussion is one thing, and we know how long discussions can take here in Cyprus, don't we? Let's see if anything comes of that, and if so, how long it takes to make life rather fairer for the many, many thousands of migrant workers who are here working legally, often for a pittance, and then going home without their social insurance contributions. Very unfair indeed. We've been talking to Doros Polykarpou from KISA. That's the NGO dealing with equality, support and anti-racism.